Good evening from Humphrey Coliseum, where Mississippi State falls in overtime to LSU, 92-88. Steve, a painful loss, maybe not devastating because there's a lot of season left to play. But this is not the way Ben Howland's team wanted to start a three-game homestand, which is going to go a long way towards strengthening their NCAA tournament case.
Yeah, probably the defining stretch of the season here, David. And this is one, too, not just because LSU is a quadrant one team, but this is on your home floor. And this is a team that really, despite their record, State played pretty much head-to-head and should have won the game. It really feels like State gave the game away, and State got up by as many as 10 in the second half, just couldn't find a way to put the Tigers away. And to the Tigers' credit, they just simply kept coming. But this is one I think we'll look back possibly on Selection Sunday and think, you know what, that's one we absolutely had to have and we didn't get.
Well, there's been a couple like that this year, the home game with Ole Miss, and this one really stand out. Again, you're now halfway through the season. You're 4-5 SEC, one game under. You're still going to be in the field. If it was selected today, Bulldogs would be in the tournament. But at the same time, you're giving away home games. Yes, you won Saturday in Oxford, a good win, a big win in a lot of ways. But you can't afford these chances because you have Kentucky coming in at noon this Saturday, a rematch with Alabama. Now, Alabama historically has struggled here at Humphrey Coliseum, but then so has LSU. And the Tigers were able to pull it out, as you said. Nas Reed, who probably is not the first person you think of to take a three-pointer. Those percentages good. He knocks it down to clinch the game. State had many chances, had some guys come up play good games. Quindary Weatherspoon is having a great week here. But a lot of confusion about substitutions, about who did and didn't play in the second half. And Ben Howland had a good explanation for a couple of them. It's just, how do they ring to your ear?
Well, the bottom line is, Robert Woodard gives you value when he comes in. And I know that basketball oftentimes is about matchups, but I think sometimes you got to force the issue yourself. And Robert Woodard, at this point, appears to be much more prolific offensively than Eric Holman, who has really struggled tonight. He's in double digits. He gets 12 points, and it's good to get that contribution back in the scoring column. But, I think when you look, long term, not to mention, I think in this tournament, you're going to need Robert Woodard to play. And I think that's one of the things we see it on social media too, and we have the same question. That's one of the things, fans think that maybe we're oblivious to this. We're sitting here on Press Road, David, kind of looking at each other and saying, how long has it been since Robert Woodard's been in the ball game? Tyson Carter had a really good first half, and he has been that sixth man that's come off the bench and provided instant offense, and he was somewhat absent there in the second half. And Ben Howland did say that he took the responsibility for it, so all the blame falls to him, that he should have managed the minutes a lot better. But the bottom line is, I don't know how much of a difference that made in the outcome in the final minute, because Mississippi State mismanaged the final minute, a couple of quick shots, and really a couple of defensive lapses as well. The bottom line, David, is if you're going to be an NCAA tournament team, these are the games you have to win.
Yes, Tyson Carter, good first half. Some big shots by Robert Woodard and some great blocks in their presence. Howland explained, to his mind, it was not a good matchup. He tried him a few minutes the second half, and he got beaten by the player that LSU changed to on that. Okay, that makes sense in a matchup situation. But I think you have to say that if he plays more in the second half, it probably doesn't get to overtime. Again, or speculating at this point, Tyson Carter, again, good first half. Maybe it doesn't get to overtime. If that happens, LSU could have won in regulation. You don't know. There's a lot of what-ifs. But the frustrating part is you see guys who are playing hard, the two freshmen, and you see some guys who play hard in stretches who are veterans and don't respond very well to be taken out of the game either sometimes.
Yeah, and that happens. And David, like that last sequence right before the end of regulation, and I asked Ben Howland about that, is did he consider calling a timeout? I kind of agree with the coach there in that situation.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with it.
No, and if you saw the body language from the LSU players after that sequence underneath this basket right here, they were not hustling to get back. Lamar Peters, and that's kind of his game, he gets loose before their defense is able to get set. And a little bit of a wild shot there, kind of forced the issue. And listen, Lamar's not 100%. I mean, I know there's not been any official declaration, but you see it. Somebody banged up against Alabama. Ben Howland kind of mentioned that tonight. But in that situation, yeah, I don't think you call a timeout and give them a chance to set up a defense because you just never know what's going to happen. And we've seen Lamar Peters make that coast-to-coast play many, many times, and it just didn't fall tonight. If it does fall, it's a different game.
Well, another thing happened. Abdul-Adu gets in foul trouble early. I think he played 2 minutes in the first half, 2 fouls, gets a quick third and fourth foul in the second half. That limits it. And when he was in there, the game was different. Let's give him credit. He was forcing LSU to do some things they didn't want to offensively. Once he was out, Nas Reed was able to go inside and get his points much more easily before having to step outside. So that made a difference there. Again, I thought Article had a terrible break on a charge call that went his way. Okay, those things happen. You get up in the air. You never can. You don't want to put it in the officials' hands, but that's what happens. So again, he finally has a kind of a resurgence game, and it backfires on him in that way. Just some tough breaks. The problem is these things keep happening. The mismanagement of the minutes that Ben Howland, he beat us to the punch saying it first. But that's happened before, and now it's happening again. This is a guy who's not new to the coaching business, so there's a disconnect in how things are getting done out there and how things are run sometimes, that maybe he's putting a little too much faith in a veteran team to go out and do their one-on-one game when maybe a little more structure needs to be inserted and just tell, you take this shot, you do this thing, and I'll take the responsibility for how it plays out.
I think a lot of it's just a trust factor. I mean, you've got young guys here that are very, very talented, but they haven't been in the ball game when the game's on the line. Reggie Perry had a big ball game at Ole Miss, made some big shots late. So I think the trust factor with him is on the incline. But I think that's what happens. You kind of stick with the devil. You know what you're going to get from Quindary Witherspoon. You know what you're going to get from Lamar Peters. And I think that's a big part of things. One of the things I want to address too about Abdul Adu, he did have some offensive struggles tonight. But you're right, David. He did alter a lot of shots. The play that everybody's talking about, we want to clarify this. Mm-hmm. The backcourt play. That was the correct call.
It was.
You have to reestablish yourself across the line. He was not. Lamar Peters, those guys are getting back after the missed free throw to prevent
Why are you
transition.
throwing the ball that far out, too?
Well, that's what they're taught to do, though, is you want to get the ball to a point guard, and it's just one of those things where Adu kind of rushed the pass before Lamar got over. And the social media lit up, and people, even some members of the media were saying it was the wrong call. It was absolutely the right call. Yes. That's the rule. You may not like the rule, but that's the bottom line. And if we wait 1 to 2 more seconds there, we might be having a different conversation tonight.
So at 4-5 in the SEC standings, halfway through, Mississippi State, obviously the odds will be very long Saturday against Kentucky, which is playing very, very well lately. But you have Alabama coming in, who has traditionally struggled here in the hump. That's become a must-win. It literally, especially because then you're getting in a stretch with the Arkansas, the Georgias. You finish the schedule with Texas A&M. You've got games against winnable teams. But State has proven that sometimes it doesn't show up against those teams for a full 40 minutes. So you've got to take that win and start rebuilding some momentum before you go into that stretch of games where you think you've got a chance to really build up your NCAA tournament stock.
You do, and David, I'll tell you this. I guarantee Arkansas and Georgia's media people, as well as their coaches and players, are looking at the schedule, and they probably see Mississippi State as a winnable game too. These are all toss-ups at this point. We saw Texas A&M go on the road in Oxford tonight and give Ole Miss all they wanted. Ole Miss squeaks out a win there. There's not going to be a night off in this league. Vanderbilt is probably really the only team that can consistently have poor efforts, and every so often they get up and surprise you a little bit, and they've got a good coach there. But the bottom line is we're running out of games. And we feel like you've got to be somewhere around 500 to get into the tournament. And, State's still looking good in the net. But the bottom line is to stay where they are and to improve their position, they got to start winning some ball games.
You don't want to put it in the hand of the selectors by finishing poorly and then going SEC tournament not doing well. So you need that good matchup. Anyway, we'll talk more about basketball next week. Also, Lady Bulldog basketball this weekend. Remember, 1 o'clock tip-off Tennessee. Show up for the Kentucky game. Show up for the Tennessee game. They're both sellouts, but use your tickets and be here and have a chance to set in a weekend attendance record for Humphrey Coliseum. All right, quickly. Basketball is not the big story of the day, oddly enough. National Signing Day, the second signing day, as Coach Joel Moorhead had put it, because now it's split up. State signs 8, finishing up with the class 22. Or have they finished up, Steve?
Well, we expect a couple more grad transfers to be added to the class. And I really think, David, with the transfer portal and all that, and that's a buzzword now, and there's going to be more guys on the move. And with all these waivers being granted, I think people are going to kind of roll the dice. If they get somewhere and spend a couple of years and they're not getting playing time, they're going to take a chance. They're going to go ahead and get in the transfer portal. But the grad transfer situation has opened up so much broader, I think, than anybody ever anticipated. And so I think now you begin to kind of manage your numbers with that in mind. You begin to think, okay, who can we identify and get in here as an immediate contributor? Because, this year Mississippi State woefully thin at defensive tackle. Mm-hmm. If you could find a Division I defensive tackle somewhere else, just a guy that's had some Division I reps, I think you have to go get that guy because you're dependent on some very, very young guys. Lee Autry is the only guy back from the 3 deep at defensive tackle. That whole unit has been gutted. And so it makes sense, rather than go sign another high school player, to go find a guy that's a grad transfer. And one of the things I want to say, too, when I asked Joe Moorhead about managing numbers, did you sign the number you anticipated? And listen, we knew what the answer was going to be before he gave it, okay? But the reality of the situation is you want to go get guys that can contribute. Sometimes we get caught up in numbers. I ran the numbers for this video, David, before I even tweeted it out for those that you missed it. Only 6 of 14 SEC teams signed 25 more players. in this recruiting cycle. And some people think because you're so acutely aware of what happens at Mississippi State, you think, oh, this only happens to us, or this is only something that we do. That's not the reality of the situation. Mississippi State's up against the 85. Got 2 scholarships available right now, David, and I expect State to use them both, not on walk-ons, but on grad transfers.
Wait, you mean, Steve, that a coach in the SEC would pass up signing 2 more kids who would bump up his February recruiting ranking to add kids who might actually help him win a game in fall? What foolishness is that?
Well, most coaches would do that. There are some other ones out there that, they'll chase rankings and headlines. And here's the bottom line. The whole point of recruiting is to aid you in your ability to win football games. There are a lot of people that win the press conference on signing day that don't win a whole lot on Saturdays in the fall. And that's the whole deal. There are some people that love football recruiting and then football in that order. I am not of that sort. I want to win football games. And so that's what I'm most excited about is you go out and you find guys that fit your needs, that can come in and fit your culture and contribute on the football field to help you win football games, not headlines.
I'm not going to ask you if it was a good class, bad class, whatever. I think we both know the answer. It was a good class in most respects. A little disappointing, but more so because of who you didn't get at the very end, more so than the total class overall, which I think fits most needs pretty well. 5 offensive linemen, 4 defensive linemen, a couple of JUCOs who can play immediately. Got some early enrollees here as well. 4 junior college players who will be expected to help out, but some more development guys. And also, Joe Moore had talked about how he didn't sign any linebackers or tight ends because they don't need them this year. But next year they'll start picking up. And also, we expect him to sign a bunch of receivers next year to add to the 3 receivers they added this year. So, general snapshot analysis of how you think his first full year of recruiting is done here at Mississippi State.
Well, I think it's a good class, bordering on a really good class, not a great class. I think it could have been a great class if you mentioned, David, if you'd had a little bit of a stronger close. And here's the thing, David, there's the perception in the state of Mississippi is always about, listen, it's not good enough for us to do well. Ole Miss has to do poorly. I mean, that's the way that a lot of fans look at it. And when it comes to stuff like this, the bottom line is, did you meet your needs? And the answer to that question is yes, they met their needs. Were they a player or 2 short of really having a great class? That's fair. That's an accurate assessment of the situation. But let's not forget the recruiting wins we had in December. Getting a 5-star offensive tackle, Charles Cross here, getting a 4-star out-of-state quarterback, Garrett Schrader, to come in and be your quarterback.
Holding on to Pickering when there was a lot of runs made at him and down the stretch.
Absolutely, and that's probably the biggest win of February, and people were sweating that out really for no reason at all. I mean, I already had his quotes for his story and everything, and I've been telling people for a month now he's going to be fine. The kid held true to his word, but also, too, David, the first signee of the day. So I think Bulldog fans today can kind of breathe a sigh of relief pretty early because they found out that Jonathan Mingo was going to stick with Ole Miss. You found out that Nathan Pickering was going to stick with Mississippi State, and at that point, we kind of knew Charles Moore was headed to Auburn. So a lot of the drama from the day had already been kind of sucked out. It was just a matter of what we were going to end up with. And then State ends up adding Corliss Waitman, grad transfer punter, that'll come right in and compete. State had to beat Alabama for him. So it wasn't just like this is a situation where, he didn't have anywhere else to go and he's just finding an opportunity to further his career. State had to really recruit him. And Joey Jones, to his credit, did a good job getting him into class.
So a Wednesday of a lot of highs, a lot of lows, and a lot of in-between. At the end of the day, basketball needs to pick it up for this home stretch. Football now takes a little bit of a break. I know Coach Moorhead still is putting some final touches on his staff. He's our strength coach, makes some staff assignments. We'll be talking to him next week when media starts getting a chance to meet with him and the new assistants as well. And I know, Steve, you, Paul, Robbie, Gene have put a lot of work into this signing period. Congratulations for getting everything done so quickly and on actually ahead of schedule. And so I think you're going to take a break tomorrow, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm going to enjoy sleeping late tomorrow. It's no radio tomorrow. That's become one of those things, and I enjoy doing it. I'm not complaining, but it's nice to have some mornings when you don't have anything pressing. I know that it's not that you're married. You have to get up and do some things. You can't.
I have to tend the dogs.
You can't leave this life of leisure and the bat for life anymore. And so you'll find, David, that when you have those opportunities to sleep late. And to kind of have a late breakfast and kind of a leisurely day, you want to take the advantage of that.
Well, it's a long-time bachelor. I'm not sure what breakfast is even now, but hopefully I'll find out soon. Hi, Kathy, sitting in the stands. Yes, we have to be. You did that on purpose, so what can I say? I deserved it. All right, we've gone long tonight, but a lot to discuss from today. So, weekend, Kentucky at noon, Tennessee women at 1 o'clock. Be here again at Humphrey Coliseum, and look forward to next week as we talk to Joe Moorhead more about football. And next week, we go out to Duneville Field and start talking baseball because it is upon us. So for our entire crew at Gene's Page 24/7 here on National Signing Day and home game basketball for Steve Robertson, for Gene Swindoll, Paul Jones, Robbie Falk, and Mike Nemeth, this is David Murray from Humphrey Coliseum.